Good day everyone. Today I'm gonna be ranking prehistoric creatures based not on viability but rather on design, specifically the looks, sounds and niche. I'm not gonna be diving into gameplay and design too deep this time, but that doesn't mean I'm gonna completely refrain from doing so. I'm also not gonna be including concept art, since all of those are a matter of change.
If you didn't know, Prehistoria is a dinosaur survival Roblox game being developed by a single developer, Soulsplosion. It's in open beta at the moment and is recognizable from its unique, cartoony art style.
With that out of the way, let's not drag the word any further and begin. In F tier, you might have already guessed it, is Styracosaurus. Where do I begin? It's one of the oldest models to be made for the game, so it has a bunch of, I guess I could call it beginner mistakes in it. The body is way rounder than it should be, the frill is uncomfortably tall, like it's some sort of mega mind. It uses a weird rig apparently, and the color regions. Oh my god, the color regions! It's not just that they are overly simple, but they are also really weirdly placed and weirded together. I'm specifically referring to how the skull, the back, and the toes, specifically only the toes, none of the other parts in the feet, are all a single color region. It sucks when you are trying to make good skin. Literally, the only kind of skin that's being made for this creature are panther slash orca esque black and white skins. Even Allo players have more creativity than that, for Pete's sake. The animations are stiff and the accent regions are really boring. It's the only creature to only make one singular call. I'm very glad it's getting a remodel sometime in the not so far future. Moving up to E tier, we have Parasaurolophus. While it's also a pretty old model, it aged much better than Styracosaurus did in my opinion. It's still bland compared to newer dinosaurs, and the accent region does suck, but the color regions are far more usable than Styracosaurus's are. Its calls are really nice too, being a nice blend between the reconstructed Parasaurolophus sounds and more generic dinosaur sounds. And I like that. I also like how it's an actually viable animal, even if Iguanodon has made it a bit obsolete since then. I've also seen people complain about how it's too thin and too small. Well, I don't really mind thin paras too much, they are fine in my book. It also has weird pupils, but who cares? It's just a pupil. Also, we know it's inspired by the dinosaur king Parasaurolophus, at least subconsciously, no matter how much the developer is denying it. Now we're getting into the okay designs, starting off with Camptosaurus and D tier. Okay, let's start with what I really like about it. The colors are really good. We don't often see a lot of purple dinosaurs in media, especially in Prehistoria, where every design is either blue, reddish brown, or both. Anyways, the dark unders and the plates are also nice. It gives the dinosaur a kind of muddy look. The colors might be ripped from a website unedited, but they kinda fit, and they are annoying, which makes sense. Now, what I don't like about Camptosaurus is, okay, let's get this over quick so I don't sound nerdy. The hands are jacked up, but they are much less jacked up than they were in the original concept. Okay, now for the actual issue. It's not really a Camptosaurus, but rather an oversized Dryosaurus. It's solely built to run and only run, which neither an accurate or a respectful portrayal of the dinosaur. Now, in itself, that wouldn't be too big of a problem. I think the problem rather stems from the runner class as a whole being hard to balance and hard to niche partition overall. You see, before Deinonychus came around, Camptosaurus was a really good pick. It could evade most predators without an issue. However, as soon as Deinonychus, another runner, was added, Camptosaurus became redundant. As Deinonychus was faster, had more stamina, dealt bleed, and the health gap between it and tier 3s was unnoticeable, and that didn't really matter. Dynon became the new runner pick, leaving Campto in the dust. But it gets worse, as Struthiomimus is planned to come to the game, which has the potential of knocking Camptosaurus out of the park completely. I guess what I'm trying to say is multiple runners are hard to balance together and often result in power creep, which Camptosaurus has fallen victim of. Now moving on, we have Allosaurus in high D tier. Also a really old model, however I think out of the old models it's the best one. The design is cool and very iconic. It's overall fine apart from the fact that it's way too chunky for an Allosaurus. And of course the different rig and kinda clunky animations are The color regions are also kind of iffy, but I'd say it's easier to work with than both of the other old models. Similarly to Parasaurolophus, this Allo also resembles the dinosaur king Saurophagonax. City is going to be the one that I won't have too much to say about. Starting with Camptosaurus, the colors are well brown, with the accents are cool and green. Its model is a big improvement from the concept art, that's for sure. The colors kinda suck. What else is there? Oh yeah, that's it, moving on. Now, Ororaptor sits at the top of this tier, and just like Camptosaurus, it's okay, and it's also brown. I guess it's a bit grey style and maybe just a tad bit over feathered for a Ororaptor, but I can let those slide, since the rest of the model and the color regions are really cool. That's it, moving on. In B tier we have Megalosaurus. Now, Megalosaurus with proto-feathers is really cool, and I like the way the proto-feathers form a mohawk, but where does the proto-feathering end exactly? If it's based on the colors of the default palette, then boy are those weird feather formations. And if it's like the color regions, I guess that's fine, but then why would you color two regions next to each other the same color, especially when they are two different types of skin covering? Whatever. The design is cool and fits Megalo's playstyle as a well-rounded pack hunter very well. The color regions are pretty good and workable too. This might be a bit controversial, but I think Baryonyx is slightly better than Megalosaurus in terms of visual design. I've seen Prehistoria's Baryonyx get a lot of hate in the community for having too much spikes and whatnot, but I actually like it for that reason. Baryonyx is always depicted in media as this bland, really bland Spinosaurid just because it doesn't have a sail like Spinosaurus does. So making it flashy by giving it many skin flaps and skin spikes was a great way to make the design very distinct and memorable. Its colors and color regions also give back a nice tropical feel, and it has a heavy claw, thank God. One could argue that Barry was the start of this shift in model style to give everything more and more detail, which eventually resulted in Ororaptor, which I will talk about later, and whatever the hell Deinonychus is. Next, in low A tier, we have Deinonychus. This creature has rabies. Its weirdly sparse feathering and weird feather formations make it look almost repulsive, which is perfect for a supposed scavenger like Deinon. Yeah, due to its unnecessarily high health, the scavenger thing doesn't really work out that well. I've seen people saying that the sleeker design of the concept art is better, and while it does look infinitely more petable, it also might have been way too similar to Utahraptor in terms of silhouette, which is not at all a problem with the final design. The color regions are good, the colors are a bit generic, the colors are quite nice and distinct. This guy just barely made it into A tier, but only because I love how rabid it looks. Wow, look at that, another raptor. As I'm recording this, Ororaptor is the newest creature in the game and it has literal butterfly wings for whatever reason. I guess it looks kinda nice, but it also might be a little too fleshy. I also like how smooth the face region is for once. The entire model is weirdly smooth, not even polygonal like all the other models. Its split color scheme also is really creative and works better than it has any right to. The color regions are good too, however they have weird names like instead of top, middle and unders it has body A, body B and body C. Anyways, I like its colors, they have this sleek water bird feel to them. The swinging animations, while kinda cartoony, I like them too. Lastly, in terms of niche, I feel like it has too much oxygen for something that isn't supposed to dive too much, and just maybe a little bit too much mobility as well, but I guess it's okay for a creature that's supposed to flee instead of fight. Osh was one of the two models to have this eye glimmer, the other one being Iguanodon. Camptosaurus is a design I really like. I like the stripes, the base colors are interesting, and I love the way the dorsal plates fade into dorsal spikes. I also really like the eating animation. We hardly ever get to see facultative biped stegosaurids in media. The calls are meh, but everything else is pretty good. In terms of niche, it kinda lost it with the health buff it got, but the idea of a quick glass cannon herbivore which utilizes bleed is pretty cool. The penultimate spot goes to Iguanodon. Iguanodon supports a triple row of spikes similar to Baryonyx, however it's a bit more subtle. Iggy is the first and currently only animal in the game to have two excellent regions, which is a nice addition to the already phenomenal patterns and color regions. However, I think there might be perhaps a bit too much accent spots on his body. The colors are nice and perfectly capture how much of a beast Iguanodon really is. Speaking of, I already mentioned how it made Parasaurolophus obsolete, and yeah, this is what brought the animal down from S tier. The initial concept was para but bleed, which is already kinda implying outcompetition. It then evolved into para but sacrifices damage for bleed and stays in fight instead of being able to flee, which then manifested in game as para but bleed but also faster for some reason, since it has barely less raw damage than para, and even if its speed got nerfed a bit, it's still faster than it should be in my opinion. Anyways, back to the point. Minus points in the niche department for invalidating Parasaurolophus, but everything else is great. And the number one spot goes to Drumroll please. Oh, who am I teasing? You can see at the bottom of the screen, it's Microceratops. I love this design so much, and not just because I usually use small ceratopsians in these kind of video games. Let's start off with the overall design. It's simple and straightforward, showing that sometimes less is more. The only major fictionalization it went through was its horns. The horns in real life bent unevenly. The frill horns bent more than the brow horns significantly. Uh, the prehistoric Microceratops, however, has evenly bending horns, which close in a perfect sphere and look magnificent. Soulsplosion actually used a sphere in order to make the horns bend perfectly, which earned Microceratops the nickname Moonceratopsian within the former staff theme. The color regions and base colors are also nice on chair. No, not that kind of chair. This is the short name I'm gonna be using to refer to Microceratops. It supports a warm crimson yellow color scheme with mint green accent. It fits into the creature's coastal habitat very nicely. In terms of color regions, I love how much fading is going on here. You can make a lot of skins with chair. I made one inspired by storm clouds that I call Thunderbulb. I also made one before that which resembled a peeled apple. Someone made a penguin skin, and I've even seen newbies making skins which almost give off Indian elephant vibes in a way. In terms of niche, the execution is a bit iffy, but I guess since it's a starter, it's okay for it to be a little weak. In conclusion, Microceratops is a simple but sweet design, and I love it. Deinonychus is gonna release soon. So far, I'd maybe put it in A tier, but we'll see. Well, that was the Prehistoria design tier list. At least in my opinion. If you disagree, leave a civilized comment below, detailing where would you have placed certain dinosaurs on the list. Goodbye.